Hey you all, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Today's video is going to be a review, swatch, and demo of the Pat McGrath Mothership 1 Subliminal palette. Real quick, I want to mention that just because the show is no longer paused does not mean that Black Lives Matter is no longer relevant and important. So for the foreseeable future, I will have links in my description box where you can donate as well as learn more about the Black Lives Matter movement. Timestamps will be down below if you want to skip ahead to any portion of this video. Alright, so Pat McGrath. This is a Black-owned makeup brand. Pat McGrath is a celebrity and runway makeup artist. Her brand is like just beautiful. All of the Pat McGrath palettes this size, so all of the Mothership palettes, are $125 and are housed in this weighty black packaging. It feels very luxe. I mean, this is nothing new. If you know anything about Pat McGrath's brand, you know that it's expensive and it feels expensive. On the back here it says, Pat McGrath Labs Mothership. Use without caution. Shade throwing and eye ecstasy may result with prolonged use. I can confirm. This is available both on Sephora as well as the Pat McGrath website. I just looked up the ingredients. The palette is not vegan. I'm a little confused as to the brand's cruelty-free status because on the website, the wording very clearly states that the products and ingredients are not tested on animals, but they do not claim cruelty-free. But as far as I can tell, they don't sell on mainland China, so I don't know what the deal is with that. So I don't know. So let's talk about the quality of the actual eyeshadows. Right off the bat, I will say overall, very pigmented, very blendable. The shimmer shades are super impactful, or the like sparkly shades, I should say. My only gripe is the regular like satin shimmer shades are not like the prettiest. The sparkly, more duochrome shades, so the 4 on this side, have a almost like baked texture, but they're like flaky as well. It's really, really cool. But the regular satin shimmers have more of that thick powdery texture that like good makeup used to be. I think they're just meant to give more of a wash, which is fine. But out of 10 shadows, there are 3 shimmers. The dark brown and the lilac I don't use at all. So for a $125 palette, to not get use out of those 2 shades is, you know, that does decrease the value of the palette for me. I did get it as a gift, so I will say I'm really happy to have it. I mean, some of the looks I create with it are the most beautiful ever. The mattes are also really, really good. Like, they're super pigmented, but they blend incredibly, and I can definitely get a full look out of it. In terms of the color story, I think it is super extremely cohesive. All of the colors work really well together. The gold is a little like maybe an exception to that. However, if you wanted to do a gold look, it would pair really well with the other neutrals in this palette. This really is a cool tone palette. I'm a big fan of cool tones. Blue looks really good on my olive skin tone. So out of all of the Pat McGrath palettes, this was like the best candidate for, you know, my perfect palette. That being said, I wouldn't say it's my perfect palette, but I do really love it. And on the mattes and these like flaky, sparkly shades, the quality is amazing, like astounding. Would I pay $125? I honestly don't know. It is a luxury item. It is a splurge. I don't consider eyeshadow to be an investment. So if you're buying this, in my opinion, it's a splurge. So let's go ahead and get into the swatches. So the shade names are not on the packaging, and honestly, it's not something that I typically concern myself with. Okay, so let's swatch these first 3. So you can see that on my skin tone, and I think it's because I'm olive and like olive skin just like eats up pigment. You can see that this isn't showing up too much. This is kind of meant to be diffused with a brush, I think. These 2 browns, they actually don't swatch super dark, but they are super pigmented and they build super, super well. Swatches don't always tell the whole story. All right, so let's go ahead and swatch these 2. So you can see how reflective this one is. The gold is also really, really pretty. I don't know why it's like not exactly, there we go. it does apply best with the finger. All right, now let's do these three. The black is so pigmented. Again though, the black isn't like showing up that dark. And again, this lilac was one of those satin shimmers with a really powdery feel. Not a big fan of it. Both of these colors show up really dull on me and my skin tone, and the fact that the finish isn't that impactful doesn't help, you know? All right, let's swatch these two. So you can see again how reflective these both are. This is a deep blue, but it's so vibrant, which I really, really love. Out of the whole palette, 1, 2, 3, those are my favorite. I think they are so, so stunning. Let me show you a couple of comparisons. This shadow is from Adept. It's ACD4, and upon first glance, it kind of looks like it's gonna be a dupe, but it has like a bit of a purpley base, but it doesn't come up quite as vibrant, so I'm just gonna swatch it right here next to the Pat McGrath one. So the base of it kind of looks gray almost. It looks really nice on camera, and it is a really, really beautiful shadow, but it's not quite as pigmented, and it doesn't come out quite as deep as the Pat McGrath one. This is another Adept shadow. It's ACD3. It has that blue reflection and like mauve kind of base, really, really similar to this shade here from Pat McGrath. So I didn't do this very smartly. Let's just try. So it's really pretty. It's just different. Like the Pat McGrath ones are a little bit flakier, and the base of the Pat McGrath one is a little bit deeper, so I think it's a little bit more flattering on the eye. This is Good God from JD Glow. JD Glow is another Black-owned makeup brand, and I love these shadows so much. They're a little bit more like sparkly, and they feel a little bit more creamy to the touch. I'm gonna swatch it right here because I think the reflection is the most similar to this one in the Pat McGrath palette, but it does have that purple base. It's just not as pinky as these two right here. So Good God, I mean, it's just like my favorite shadow in my collection. I think it's worth picking up. If you want kind of this like bluey duochromy effect and you just want to get one shadow, I would definitely pick up Good God from JD Glow. I will also show you Glass Bowl from ColourPop, which looks like it's gonna be, you know, the same idea. And it is the same idea, but the quality is just nowhere near. It's a lot more translucent and doesn't show up as much. Actually, it swatches really well, but in terms of how it applies on the eyes, JD Glow and Pat McGrath definitely blow ColourPop out of the water. ColourPop's more affordable, but if you're gonna get a single, I would just pay like a couple extra more dollars and get the JD Glow one. These satin shimmers, what I wish they were was more like these Cosette shadows, and this one is called Halite, and it's got that same color vibe in terms of it being that lilac-y kind of color. But it's just much shinier and more reflective and just much more flattering on the eye. It doesn't come off as dull as this one from Pat McGrath. So yeah, those are the swatches. All right. Here we go. So I'm just gonna make sure to pat out any creasing on my lids, and I'm gonna start off with a primer. This is the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Eden. So the first shadow I'm gonna take is this one right here. It looks really glowy in the pan, but I don't know if it's my skin tone or the texture of the shadow, but I can't quite get it to show up on my eyes. Next, I'm gonna take this medium taupey brown shade and just blend that in the crease. Now I'm just building up that shade on the outer V. I'm taking a smaller, more concentrated brush, and I'm just going into this darker taupey brown. And I am doing a soft wing shape with this, and then blending that out with a fluffier brush. So what I love about these shadows is that wherever you put the pigment down, it kind of stays there, but the edges diffuse really, really well. And I haven't even dipped this brush back in. There's still a fair amount of pigment on it. And I am tapping my brush as I go, but it's worth noting that I'm not getting fallout with these dark shades. And I'm just gonna build that up a tiny bit more, and then we'll move on to the fun shades. Okay, now with my ring finger, I'm gonna go in with this duochrome shade right here. And I am just putting that on the inner 2/3 of the lid. Okay, now I'm gonna do something really fun. So I'm gonna go in with this dark blue on a liner brush. For this technique, you really wanna make sure to tap off the excess and or stamp the excess into the bristles of the brush. And I am gonna start creating a liner with that. See how pigmented that is? And with this technique, I am getting a little bit of fallout. It's just the nature of this technique. And then I am just blending that liner with a clean brush. I am gonna try and build that up even more with a pencil brush, just by kind of stamping it in. And that's it for the smoky liner technique. You just keep going back in and adding more pigment and then smoking it out. I'm just thickening up that outer edge to kind of blend it into the outer V color kind of thing. And then last step, I'm gonna take my ring finger again, and now I'm gonna go into this really light shade over here. It has a clear base with a teal blue reflect. In my other tutorial where I used this color all over the lid and then put this on top in the center, I like actually have an emotional reaction at how beautiful it is. That's what it looks like on my finger. So pretty. These are so like, the texture is like indescribable. Since it has a translucent base, it's not going to completely erase that liner effect that I created if I just go ahead and stamp it right on top. Shadows with a translucent base tend to make really good toppers for that reason, because you can still see what's going on underneath. And then I'm actually bringing it up to create like a spotlight effect all the way up to the brow bone. And then I could take a brush with a little bit of foundation left over on it and just clean that up. Voila. And then just using this liner brush and whatever blue pigment is left on it, I'm going into that light brown and kind of mixing it in. And I'm just going to scoot that across my lower lash line to give just a little bit of definition. So that's it for the eyeshadow. Real quick off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the other eye and then do a tiny bit of liner and lashes. I'll be right back to show you the finished eye look. All right, and this is the finished eye look. So that is it for today's video reviewing the Pat McGrath Mothership 1 Subliminal palette. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more beauty, makeup, personal style, and life-related content from me. Feel free to click on the videos popping up on the screen now, and otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Bye!